human, archhuman, satanic. Godless notes. Lack of faith. It is not the belief in the non-existence of gods that is in question, but the complete absence of this belief. This complete denial of the certainty of what is expected, the conviction of what is not seen, must come from the devil himself. If nature is fallen because sin came into the world, then the instinctive natural rejection of faith in favor of reason must derive from original sin. It was Eve who, first enlightened by the serpent, chose knowledge over blind faith. Yahweh God went into a holy rage when he learned that man had chosen Satan's truth over mindless belief in his dogmas. It is Satan who represents knowledge instead of faith. Satan lacks faith in God. Satan is the negation of God, he is the anti-God. Satanism is the negation of religion, it is anti-religion. Godless Satanism is the enemy of any form of theistic manipulation of human emotions, subconscious and mind through fear of punishment in an imaginary afterlife, or false hope of a better life after death in flesh and blood. The soul detached from the body does not exist. The mind detached from the corporeal brain does not exist. Evil from another world does not exist. Morality coming from the heavens does not exist. It is a falsehood based on delusion, accepted only on faith, this enemy of reason and knowledge. It is an undeniable fact that every holy book was written by man, every demon, angel, god or devil, every name written in these books was created by man. All religions are the product of man. This is a fact. Gods without man would be nothing, they would cease to exist. Man without gods is, and will continue to be man. It took an anti-God, Satan, to sow doubt in the false gods. It took more than man inventing more and more religions out of ignorance and fear. It took a new man, let it be said, an archhuman, stripped of all fear of eternal death and false faith, hope and love for sacred delusional lies. Lack of reason. In the 16th and 17th centuries, writing such a book could be paid with one's life. Thanks to the Satanic Enlightenment, however, inquisitors possessed by holy madness no longer rule this world. Although there are still countries where the crime of blasphemy is punishable by death. But that does not mean that religious fanatics would not want to rule again. Therefore, there is a need to write godless, blasphemous books that challenge the theistic fallacy and show the absurdity of religious belief in general, in order to dissuade as many people as possible from God and his imaginary kingdom. Christians, those who truly believe in the truth of their Bible, the one in which it is written that the universe was created about 6,000 years ago, created out of nothing by an invisible being not of this world, who created it in 6 days, believe fervently in the chaotic, ambiguous prophecies, from which they read that soon their Savior will deliver them from this evil world, and will burn the sinful world itself with fire. Moreover, their book exhorts them to hasten this doom, while you await and strive to hasten the coming of the day of God, which will cause the lit heavens to go up to destruction, and the stars to scatter in fire. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 12. These people, wherever they gain even a share of power, immediately try to write their laws taken out of a Bronze Age book into the legislation of the country in question. Therefore, their one and only worldview based on the delusions of ancient sheep herders affects all the citizens of a country, regardless of whether these citizens share their view that the earth is flat or not. Lack of religion. Religion can be defined as a person's relationship to some deity, and the divine realm manifested through faith and various religious rituals. Theistic religion is usually based on a belief in an invisible God or gods. And if these beliefs are derived from revealed truths in sacred books, then there is no question here of any opposition to religious doctrines and divine laws. After all, these books were written down by divinely inspired prophets. And how does one know this? These books say so, and it must be taken on faith. But knowledge is the opposite of faith. Where knowledge occurs, there is no room for faith. For when you know something, then you do not need faith. Faith disappears in the face of knowledge. That is why the preachers of faith hate knowledge so much. That is why knowledge is the enemy of faith. Knowledge comes from Satan. That is why Satanism has nothing to do with religion and faith, because true Satanism is the opposite of religion. Satan is the powerful, primordial, and most important symbol of rebellion against all authoritarianism, spiritual tyranny, and blind faith in revealed dogmas, and true Satanism is the anti-religion. And this is what constitutes its truly diabolical power. Godless Satanism is a worldview that not only rejects belief in a god, like atheism, but is the very absence of all faith, and is also a fierce enemy of theistic superstition, that absurdity particularly pronounced in the Abrahamic religions. Satan is a symbol hated and feared by all those who base their worldview on blind faith, and by all those who use the blind faith of followers to control them. Satan represents the power of reason, skepticism, ungodly knowledge, and the sinful courage to acquire this knowledge, even in ways that are temporarily unacceptable to religious-minded people and temporarily forbidden. Satan, as a powerful symbol, has the infernal power to attract to himself all rebels who, after learning his philosophy, are able to be disenchanted and born again to an abundant life of flesh and blood. Traditional Satanism. Theism, that fatal philosophical and religious concept that proclaims, usually on the basis of revelation, or more properly delusion, a purely speculative belief in the existence of an omnipotent, omniscient God or gods who on a whim, or out of boredom, created the world, and supposedly intervene in its fate and watch over the course of events. The opposite of this superstitious worldview is anti-theism, which sees theism as a dangerous, harmful attitude that impedes human progress. Theism is a worldview based on blind faith rather than empirical knowledge, which has often led followers of one imaginary superstition to persecute followers of other superstitions or imaginary gods, or to persecute people who completely reject the virus of religion. The religions that gather the largest number of followers in the world are the Abrahamic religions. They all derive from the original Yahwism. The three main Abrahamic religions are Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. According to the collections of myths of these religions written down by superstitious people who mostly did not know where the moon goes to sleep, the greatest opponent of their Bronze Age desert god is the proud angel Satan, who was the first to rebel against slavish obedience to Yahweh's dictatorship and blind faith in revealed dogmas. According to the theology of one Yahwist sect, Christianity, anyone who does not recognize their self-proclaimed God Jesus and denies that he is the Messiah is acting under the influence of Satan. And every spirit that does not recognize Jesus is not of God, and this is the spirit of Antichrist, who, as you have heard, is coming, and is already in the world. 1 John chapter 4 verse 3. Who is a liar, if not he, who denies that Jesus is the Christ? He is the Antichrist who casts doubt on the Father and the Son. 1 John chapter 2 verse 22. For many deceivers have gone out into the world who refuse to acknowledge that Jesus Christ came in the flesh. Such a one is a deceiver and Antichrist. 2 John chapter 1 verse 7. Thus a philosophy that does not recognize Jesus, that denies that Jesus is the Christ, questions the Father and the Son, and refuses to recognize that Jesus Christ came in the flesh, is, according to Christian theology itself, a philosophy imbued with the spirit of Antichrist, is Satanism. And what is more, it is Satanism in its most traditional form. This Satanic philosophy, in addition to rejecting Christian dogmas, views theism in general as dangerous and harmful, an impediment to human progress and an enslaving superstition of man. Such a philosophy can best be described as traditional anti-theistic Satanism. Satan and Satanism. Satan is the primordial rebellion against the tyranny and madness of a demented dictator. Satan is knowledge, Satan is sin because knowledge is sin. It is the wisdom of this world which this enemy of all that is human, this mad god of the Bronze Age hates with all his rotten heart. For if the first crime worthy of the punishment of eternal death consisted in knowing good and evil, in receiving knowledge, for if the wages of this sin is death, then man of flesh and blood, devoid of the divine fear, the archhuman, will side with sin, imaginary crime and eternal death will side with truth. Satan is a powerful symbol of the instinctive, natural to all free and therefore sinful spirits, opposition and rebellion against every form of dictatorship and tyranny, even that tyranny of false love enforced by fear of the wrath of the deity and eternal death. Satanism. Satanism is the path to the power of will and inner sinful freedom, as opposed to the philosophy of subjugation and delusional guilt. Satanism is the truth about the often cruel and merciless nature of things, as opposed to the lie of an imaginary afterlife. Satanism is abundant life in the glory of flesh and blood here and now, instead of spiritual vegetation awaiting the great day of wrath of an imaginary deity. Satanism is the belief in a soul and sinless life before death. For original sin is a lie.